Welcome to A New Breed of Golf Live. Michael Breed here inside the Morgan Franklin Transformation Center, and excited to be able to assist you once again with understanding how to improve your game, the little nuances of getting range success to the golf course, why it's not happening that way, and what are some of the idiosyncrasies that take place when you're on the golf course that's different than when you're on the range. And specifically, as you can see, we've tilted the floor here. Yeah, you're not seeing anything. This is us. It's happening. We actually did it, but it's going to help you improve your game, and it's going to help you understand what accommodations you need to be able to make so that good swing that you're making on the practice tee actually makes it over to the golf course. Before we get to that information, though, a little bit of work to do, and you know this. I want to introduce you to my friends, Mr. Steve Gibbs, and of course Greg Ducharme. Gibbsy over there, look at that. That guy has a low five. They went two. That's a throwback five. I haven't seen that one in a while. That one reminded me of my dad. I kind of felt like, because my dad would do that and do that. I don't even know what to say. I'm taken back. I'm excited. Maybe that's because of the rollback of the golf ball. Maybe we're going back to 1975. Is that what it is? Okay, that's what's going on here. So they're throwing it back. You know, these guys are tricky. Anyway, Steve Gibbs, Greg Ducharme, they're the ones that are behind the scenes getting this all done. Gibbsy will be running the cameras. Obviously, Greg is going to be the one that's going to be getting your questions. And we need to make sure that you get those questions to us. Just type it up in the chat, whatever it is that you want to do. A couple things that I also want to remind you of too. We're growing this YouTube channel, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Thank you all so much. Keep sharing, keep subscribing, get people to subscribe, follow, like, send us topics that you want to talk about, and we'll get to some of those topics. Now, what we want to do is remind you of our blessed poker chip ball markers. We've got 5 of them. We actually ran out of one. So with these 5, and we're going to continue to remind you of these until, well, not till they're all gone, but till they're almost all gone. So we've got these blessed poker chip ball markers, $6 each. Send those emails to me at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. And we've got the hats. Now, I've been showing you the blue one for the last little bit. I'm going to show you this white one. We love this white one. It goes with anything that you wear. These are $30. Just send those emails to me if you're interested in getting a hat, and we will get those out to you. Now, I want to talk to you about this downhill lie and the challenge that you have with this and why it's the hardest shot that you face. And it is, on the golf course, the hardest shot that you face. So first of all, we talk about bringing range success to the golf course. Rarely do you practice downhill lies or uphill lies or sidehill lies of any sort on a practice environment. In fact, if you go out to the practice tee, and if you're lucky enough to be on grass and you get uneven lies, you move. And if you're on a mat and the mat isn't dead straight, you're going to complain about it, and rightly so. And the reason why is that you want to be able to work on your swing. You're not thinking about improving the area of confusion for you, which is the uneven lie. And it's something that you should expect yourself to get when you get out onto the golf course. You should expect a level lie when you're on the tee, whatever the tee is, par 3, par 4, par 5. And then you should expect to get uneven lies the rest of the way, literally through the green. You should expect uneven lies. And when you start to do that, you'll look for it. One of the reasons why you have a difficult time getting range success to the golf course is you don't look for the uneven lie. And so what I need you to do is we talk about there's a physical component to success in the game of golf. There's also a mental component to the success of your game. And the mental component is looking for the uneven lie, right? You approach a situation, you sit there and you go, okay, how far am I? And you take your rangefinder and you shoot it. It says, I got 175 yards to that target. You don't necessarily look at this and go, okay, this is a downhill lie. What am I going to do on a downhill lie? What you do is you go, oh, this is a downhill lie. I hate downhill lies. And you don't do anything about it, and you hit it, and then it doesn't go the way you want. And you go, see, I told you, I hate this lie. We got to stop that. The other thing that's so important for you when it comes to an uneven lie is understanding where you have to aim, understanding what shot to expect, understanding the accommodations that need to be made. You don't do any of that stuff when you're on a level lie or on a practice tee. You just don't do that. You just switch clubs. You put your 8-iron back, you grab your 6-iron, and you start hitting your 6-iron. And you don't think about the lie. You might think about the target that you're hitting at. you don't think about how far is this going to go? How is this going to fly differently? What are the things that I need to do? Where do I need to aim this? You don't do any of that stuff. You just pull a club and you start working on your swing. And when you're going out to play, you warm up, you do the exact same thing. You focus on something and you hit it towards that. You're not really thinking about, well, is this going a certain distance? You need to pay attention to all that stuff because that's what happens when you get on the golf course. It's one of the reasons why the range success doesn't transfer to the golf course. And then the other thing is you practice a lot of your favorite clubs, which we've talked about before. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about the accommodations that you make in this uneven lie situation. And then I want to talk to you about how practicing on an uneven lie is going to help you with your motion. So first, an uneven lie. This pitch that we have here is about 3 degrees. So it's tilting down this way. Now, what do we have to do to be successful with this shot? Well, what you've been told to do is put the ball back in your stance. So you step up, you put the ball back in your stance like this. Then what you do is you lean your weight up the hill. So you put it back, you lean back, and then when you hit this, you're going to hit this fat because you're leaning up the hill. So you go here, and you hit it poorly, and it goes fat, and it moves along the left. Or you put it back in your stance, and you lean down the hill because you say, well, I got to get my shoulders like this. So you tilt your shoulders this way. Your upper body is down the hill, but your lower body stays up the hill. So you kind of go ball back, lower up, upper down, and now here, and now you go like this, and you swing from here. This is not a great setup position. And now what you do is you hit a shot. You basically chop down on the ball. This thing takes off with a launch angle of about 8 degrees. It rolls for about 30 yards. And you wonder why the ball came up short and why the ball ended up into a bunker or worse. You can't figure out how it went so low. And you were fortunate that you made solid contact, but it doesn't have the distance or the carry that you're looking for. Now, there's some things that you need to think about when you're swinging, and then there's some things that you need to do before you swing, what we call pre-swing. So first thing is this. In the address position, what you want to do is you want to try to, on all lies that are uneven, you want to try to get your body and the relationship of your body to the ground in the same relationship as when you're on the practice tee or a level lie. So if I have a 3-degree tilt down with this ground, which I have, what I want to have is I want to have my normal address position, shoulder position, tilted 3 degrees down. Now, I'm not saying you have to be perfect here. Don't misinterpret that. But what I am saying is that if I get set up on a 3-degree pitch down and I lean up the hill like this, my shoulders are now at their normal, I'm going to make this up, 6 degrees up into the air. Now, all of a sudden, I have a 9-degree differential between the ground and my shoulders. And that means I'm going to hit it fat. If I was in a level lie, I went like that. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not going to make solid contact. And I'm not going to get off my trail side. I'm going to tend to be stuck back here because there's so much weight up on the uphill leg or on the trail leg that I stay back here and I hit it fat. Maybe top it even. Sometimes that happens to you at home. What you have to do is you have to realize that on a 3-degree tilt, and again, I'm not saying that you have to know what 3 degrees looks like versus 2 degrees versus 7 degrees. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you have to take your shoulders and pitch them down the slope and get the feeling like they're parallel. They won't be, but you get the feeling like they're parallel. So when I take my shoulders and I now feel like I'm doing this, all of a sudden, when I take my shoulders and I lean them down this way, and I also want you to remember your hips, which we're going to touch on in a second, but I want your shoulders to be like this. I want your hips to follow that. Now you can see I'm actually leaning onto my left side. I'm leaning down the hill, which is exactly what you want to try to do. We're going to lean the body down the hill. Shoulders are going to be level. Now, when I hit this, I will hit this solidly, but it's going to go low again. So we're here. We've leaned down the hill like this. Now I hit it solidly. The ball speed on that is 118 miles an hour, but the launch angle is 14 degrees. And when that launch angle is 14 degrees, now what ends up happening is your angle of attack changes. Can you go back and hold that one for me, Greg? So the angle of attack changes. And so for me, what happens is I have I normally am about 6 degrees down with my 6-iron, maybe 5. If I'm trying to hit a draw, it might get shallower than that. But look at what happens over here. Now my angle of attack is 7.4 degrees down and my launch angle is 13.8. I normally will have a launch angle with a 6-iron, it's going to be right around 17, 18, 19 degrees, depending upon the shot that I'm going to hit. But it's not 14. So in order for you to change that, you have to make another accommodation. So the accommodation that you make here is, again, shoulders are going to tilt. Hips, remember I told you, I want my hips to feel like I'm putting some pressure on that downhill leg. So I'm going to feel like my hips are even tilting, which means my lead leg is going to have a little bit more flex in it than normal because I need to get my lead hip lower than the trail hip. It's not as much as the shoulders, but it is tilted a little bit. So what I've got is I've got this type of setup going on. Now I'm in here. Now here's what I want you to appreciate. Remember I tell you all the time that ball position is an upper body relationship, not a lower body relationship. If I set my ball position where it normally is, and then I make these accommodations, what I do is I actually move the ball position back. And so the reason why that flights out low is because the ball position is back, which is why the angle of attack gets steeper. And so what I want you to do is I want you to remember where you want the ball position given a certain club. So with my 6-iron, I want this thing sort of right at the start of my left eye. Okay. So when I get into what I'm doing and I get my tilt, I may have to adjust this a little bit. You can see that ball position relative to my feet looks quite a bit forward there. Yeah, great shot, Gibbsy. So it looks quite a bit forward there. But if you come back this way and now I'm in here, now you can see that ball position is sort of right off that part of my eye, the start of my left eye, nearest to my nose. And now I get in here like this. Now, what has happened as a result of this is I've had to widen my stance. And one of the things that I can tell you is when you get to where you are on uneven lies, the way you maintain balance is by widening your stance. So when in doubt, I like getting a wider stance. I don't like narrow stances. I like wider stances. And so when I get wide and then I get my lead knee to bend a little bit more, my trail leg almost acts like a kickstand on a bike. So I get to here, I'm braced right there. Ball position now is where I will normally play it. And now I hit that shot. And all of a sudden what happens is my launch angle, let's go up to the front on this 4, Gibbsy, so I can show everybody what happens. And now my launch angle gets back to where it normally is. I get I told you 17, 18, 19 degree launch angle. That's 18 and a half. So I get exactly what I'm looking for there. Okay. Now, it sounds counterintuitive to move your ball forward when you're on a downhill lie. And you're also going to be in some situations where you might have talked to a golf professional like me and they said, no, you got to move the ball back. You don't have to move the ball back. If you move the ball back and you lean down the hill, which everybody's going to tell you, the second they tell you, well, you got to take your shoulders and you got to get them to the slope, that means you're going to lean down the hill. And when you lean down the hill, you move the ball position back. It's already back. And now if you move it physically back more, now it's way, way, way back. And if I go into that and I start to look at where it is in my upper body and I start doing all this stuff that looks like a middle ball position or slightly forward ball position, and now I lean and I lean, now all of a sudden my ball position is off my right shoulder. And if I swing from here, this thing is going to come out. That one there left at 11.1 degrees. It had a lot of spin to it, so it didn't roll out as far. But the apex of that shot was 46 feet. That thing is a bullet. Okay, so move this thing forward. And when I do this, I'm gonna hope to get the same launch angle right in that 17, 18, 19 degree launch window. But also, too, I should get an apex that's near my normal apex, which is about 90 feet. Okay, so ball position goes up there. Now I'm in this position here. So hips are leaning down the hill. Shoulders are sort of parallel to the slope, even though they're not, but it feels like that. And now I hit that shot. Now, all of a sudden, let's look at our numbers of what we got here. So Gibbsy, come on up to the front here, because this is more or less in where I'm playing. One, I got my launch angle at 17.2 degrees. So I like that a lot. Ball speed was really up, 122. I'll explain that to you in just a second. Look at the apex, 94 feet. 94 feet on the downhill lie, 94 feet. Why? Because the ball position was, now this is hard to understand. The ball position was where I normally play it from, but it's forward relative to my feet. So it's normal where my upper body is, forward where my feet are, but because I'm up in here, that ball's going to climb up into the air, okay? That's how you want to deal with that. Now, any questions on this? By the way, just get it in, and Greg will get them to me. Now I want to talk to you about, and a lot of people say, well, where do I aim? And this is that's an interesting question, and the answer is it depends upon where the flag is. It depends upon your comfort with with how solid the strike is. So it's not like one size fits all. When you do this, you tend to hit the ball a little bit, it maybe doesn't go quite as far as you expect it to go. So you might have to hit another club with it. And in order to get the trajectory you want, you may have to feather the face open a little bit. And now all of a sudden we're getting a little bit of a fade. Well, now I'm going to aim on the left side, maybe the left side of the green. Depends on the club. If I'm hitting let's say I'm hitting a hybrid, it may fade a little bit more. If I'm hitting a pitching wedge, it may not fade as much. And so at that point, I might not aim as on the left edge. I might take this into the center of the green. But you should expect to make solid contact enough so that the distance and everything is the same. And I say same as a level lie. All right. That's pretty much Monarch notes of how you're going to deal with this. And I'll rewind the videotape. You're going to play the ball forward. You're going to set your weight forward. You're going to sink your lead hip and lead shoulder. And then you're going to make your motion. Okay. Sink the lead hip, sink the lead shoulder, make your motion. Now, I want to talk to you about how this downhill lie can assist you with your golf swing. And I mean everybody. So when I look at the golf swing of, well, it's actually my favorite golf swing that the game has ever had, this swing with Tiger Woods. One of the things that you see with Tiger, and I'm going to show you this in a second, is the transition beginning and how the weight moves at the start of that downswing. And so if I take Tiger into his backswing, very wide, great rotation of the upper body. So the upper body is now turned completely. The head is actually moved slightly back. So it's looking almost down the line of his foot right here. If I put a line right on the outside of his head right there, when Tiger starts to go back in the other direction, what you're going to see him do is there's a slight lean and a slide forward. So right now, he's going to get into a position where he's about, I would say, when his arm is parallel to the ground, he's moved about a half a head towards where he's trying to go. And if I go back up here again, which is right about there, and I draw a line on that trail hip, and then we start to go this way, you can see all of that moving forward. There's a movement towards the target that this swing has. And so when he finishes through this strike, now his weight is all over that lead foot, and the trail foot, this right here, looks very, very light. So when I look at this golf swing, and again, my favorite golf swing ever, his backswing is light on the lead foot, heavy on the trail foot. That's what that'll look like. So heavy here and light on that lead leg. And then when he starts to go down, he compresses down, and now he puts a lot of weight. And now this trail leg is looking, it's being used, but it's pushing weight. So weight is now ending up on that forward leg. And now when he comes through this, now all of a sudden that trail leg, look at how light this looks. And then he goes into the follow through, and now it's really light. So what I want you to be thinking about when you're thinking about a golf swing is you want to get light in the lead leg to the backswing and then heavy into the lead leg in the downswing. That's how you're going to transfer your weight. That's how you're going to get out of hanging back. And so what I like to do is I like to use a downhill lie because gravity has a way of helping us. When we start swinging down the slope, now all of a sudden gravity is encouraging me to go in this direction. So what I like to do, and I like to teach my students, and we do this a lot, is swing on downhill lies. So if I swing on a downhill lie here, now I'm not worried about ball position, launch angles, any of that stuff. All I'm doing here is just making sure that when I go through this shot, that I feel my body. You don't have to chase the shot, Gibbers. When I'm done, I like to feel my body over here on left side, and I like to be able to just tap that foot. Let me do this again. So I'm going to go in like this. I'm going to feel like my body is moving through this way. So we go here, and then make sure we can tap that trail foot. So I'm right there in good balance, not falling over. Now, let me record one. So when I record one, what you're going to see is how my body moves through this shot. So let's record this.
That's not recording.
It's not recording? Okay. So let's cancel, start this up again. I must have unplugged that. Yeah, I did. I unplugged that, the pressure mat. Let's try this again. Here we go. Start. Okay. Now, watch this movement here. So there's a really good strike. Stay with it. Oh, it's going to go right over it. So that was a really good strike. That ball left at 122 miles an hour, right on the line, 15-4 launch. Now, watch what happens here with this swing. So I'm back here like this. This is the top of the swing. Here's my head. Now watch the movement of the body going forward into this strike. So I'm moving. Look a little bit like Tiger right here. That line is now right where my nose is. So I've moved a half a head into that strike. And now what happens because of that movement, look at how the club now, as it's tracking down into this ball, it's off the ground, obviously, but still off the ground there. And now in the strike, I'm off the ground. I'm getting a nice shaft lean into that. That one there has a shaft lean of about 13 degrees. So that's going to be piercing out. It's going to have some speed. That's why that ball speed was 122. Look at where my body is. The center of my head is right where that line was. So I create impact right there. And now I go to the top of the backswing. There's the line. There's the movement in. Line. So top, in. Look at how the body is moving into that strike. And now we let this thing roll out. Body moves through. Now look at how light this trail leg looks right here and how heavy this is. And then when I'm done with this, look at that line. So if I go down from the neck right down to the heel, I'm in basically a dead straight position. And now I'm over my lead leg. So it encourages you to move forward. Let me show you something else that this will do. Let me close this up. Now, one of the big problems that you battle is what we'll air quote weight shift. And many of you feel like when I shift, I'm supposed to shift. I got to load my trail leg. You got to load that leg. And so what you think about doing is you think about going like this. And so the body starts to slide. Well, it's very difficult if I had a wheelbarrow with rocks in it, it'd be impossibly hard to go up the hill with that thing. I'd rather go down the hill and rather than go up the hill for a whole variety of reasons. Well, the same thing is true in a golf swing. It's when I have this back part of this mat tilted up and I'm throwing my weight down there, I'm not going to make a backswing where I shift into this. I'm going to tend to stay right here and now pivot. So I'm going to take some of that body rotation. I'm going to put some in and I'm going to take some slide out. So what we do is we feel like at the address position, I've got about 60%, maybe 70%. That lead leg is got a little bit more bend in it. The knee has a little more bend in it, but I've got 60, 70% weight on my lead foot. I'm tilted down as I'm on my lead foot. And what we want to do is almost feel like we're there and then keep it and then lean into it. So we get a good body rotation in the backswing. We don't we don't push up the hill. We stay in here. And for those of you that are struggling with getting your hips, you're moving too much laterally and you want to get a little rotation in there, go swing on a downhill lie. And when you're on that downhill lie, now all of a sudden you're going to feel some real pressure into that lead leg. You'll feel the hips are kind of forward. They're not over the trail foot. They're here and they stay in there. And there's another good strike. Is this one going to get to no, it's going to tail off. And so now I have a really good feel of how to keep my hips where they are. So now I want to record that. So let's go back over here. Record this. And now all I'm working on is making sure my hips don't slide up the hill there. So I'm in here like this, lean down that hill that way, hips and shoulders. Good clean strike. Very solid strike. That one there at 119 miles an hour ball speed. Now let's see how I do. So in here like this. So that's about where my hip is. Club goes back. So there I am. And it's maybe right there. And what you can see is there's no hip over here. There's the hip right here. So that's what I want. I want to have my hip inside there. And you can see, by the way, if I take my hip and I draw a line straight down from there, that's going to be inside that trail foot. And now I can see the pressure of that lead leg. Now, you got to get used to what that feels like. And then all of a sudden, you're going to start striking the ball really solidly. You're going to hit the ball first, and then you're going to hit the ground. You're going to take a divot properly. That's how you do that. Now watch what happens, how free it is now for me to be able to move forward. So here's the hip right there. And now I start to go into this. Look at how that trail hip, the entire body is now moving forward. And then again into that very straight up and down position with that lead leg. So that's going to help you understand how to move the hips properly. It's a wonderful little drill for you and something that I know is going to assist your performance. Okay. All right. So what we have is we have an understanding of how that downhill lie is going to allow you to rotate your body properly. It's also going to allow you to understand how to get the body to go down the hill or towards the target. And then finally, what's going to happen is this. You're going to start to understand, and I explained this to you before, how that angle of attack, when I showed you that picture, 7.5 degrees of downward strike on that, you're going to start to get a little bit more ball first contact. And the reason why is that if you think about this, in this situation with the back part of the property or the stuff behind the golf ball being higher than the stuff in front, you got to avoid this, which means you have to have a steeper angle of attack. Well, when you start to get set up properly and you start to swing properly, what you're going to get is you're going to get a steeper angle of attack. Let me get a ball here. And that will be reflected in a couple of different ways. One, you'll start to see the ball pierce out a little bit lower, right? So my launch angle is going to come down a little bit. Now, it's not going to be necessarily when you do this, and we're not making accommodations. So I'm not making a ball adjustment here. I'm just working on this motion. What you're going to see is that ball is going to launch at lower than what your normal launch angle would be. And you might not know that it's 17, 18, or 19 degrees, but you do know when you look up, when the ball is not where you want it to be or where it used to be, it's actually lower than that. You know that you launched it a little bit lower. So we get in here like this, and now you're going to feel all that stuff. So that rotation is going on. The motion is going on in here. And now I strike that one there. This one's coming out at about 14 degrees. A very low pierce. So come on up here to the front, Gibbsy, if you would. So here we go. We got a 14-degree launch angle right here. And what you can see is that as that's coming out a little bit lower, now my ball speed is up there. Again, I'm normally with a 6-iron, and it's getting faster for me nowadays. I used to be 115, and now it seems to be sort of in that 118, 119, 120 range. Well, now I'm getting 122, so my golf ball is going about 185 yards in the air, which is pretty good for a 6-iron and a 60-year-old guy. And so as you start to understand what you're doing with this downhill lie and how it's going to help you with your golf swing, make some practice swings. And you can do this on the golf course. Make some practice swings on the downhill lies, and you'll start to feel the hips not sliding up the hill, the body moving in that direction, the angle of attack getting a little bit better. When all that happens, now all of a sudden what you've got is you've got an opportunity to shoot lower scores. You'll be making more solid contact. You'll be hitting the golf ball more predictable distances, which is going to get you up around the hole or certainly around the green. And that's going to help eliminate some higher scores for you. Okay. All right. Before we get to the questions, Greg, can you give us a little update as to what's taking place at the Valspar?
I sure can. It's a fun update right now too, because leading the way is Jordan Spieth. He's 4 under through 15, which is solo first. Sam Burns was up there for a little while at 4 under. He made a bogey, so he's at 3 under par through 15. Patton Kizzire touched 4 under. He's back at 3 under par. Adam Hadwin is in the clubhouse at 2 under par. Justin Thomas is 2 under through 14 holes. Davis Riley came runner up here last year.
Yeah.
He's at 2 under through 11. Webb Simpson, Michael, is at 1 under through 14. And Justin Suh is at, even though he just made a bogey, he was at 1 under just a second ago.
That's another guy that you've got in your Fantasy 5 guys too.
Yeah. He's kind of a must. I think he's going to win here pretty soon, maybe even this week.
Okay.
Early yet.
All right, let's jump to some questions here and
yeah,
take it away.
All right, this one from Michael. Can you touch on downhill sand shots? I know we don't have a bunker in here, but maybe some of the properties of a downhill.
Okay, so bunker. I'm gonna have to throw this back to Michael because I'm gonna need a little bit more explanation. So when you say downhill sand shots, are you talking about shots in sand where you're playing downhill, like off of a downhill lie? Or are you hitting a shot from a little bit of an elevated bunker to a downhill green, which happens upon occasion? I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not exactly certain. So I'm going to deal with what I think it is, which is the downhill, the pitch of the downhill. And believe it or not, that's actually something that I think is, I know it sounds crazy. It's a lot easier for you, the downhill sand shot, than the uphill sand shot. The uphill sand shot, we don't even know what we do with an uphill sand shot, but a downhill sand shot, it's really quite favorable because when the sand is a little bit closer to you, you got a better chance of getting into that. I still think the accommodations are the same. The difference is that when you're in the sand as a whole, you're going to play with a wider base anyway. So let me get a sand wedge here. You're going to play with a wider base anyway, but in here, you also, and gives you maybe a little down the line thing could work out nicely, maybe a 1. When I get into this and I have this downhill lie, my knees are still going to have a lot of bend. I also want that handle to be a little bit lower. One of the things that I want to try to do when I have a downhill sand shot, that will tend to run away a little bit faster. And so I need a little bit more trajectory. So I'm going to lower the handle of the golf club, which will throw this ball up into the air. So I get in here like this. And then because that sand is a little bit closer to my trail shoulder, I'm not so worried about tilting this way. I lean into the shot, but I lean into the shot anyway with a bunker shot. but I do just let that handle just get just a little bit lower. And when I come in here, I let this just kind of slide along that sand. And because that sand is closer to my trail shoulder than say on a level lie, that's actually good for us. You don't want to hit so far behind it. So you might actually move the ball position back. You could do that. I don't, but you could. But I like to get that handle to get a little bit lower. And then the one thing that I'll do in the swing that I might not do with the level lie is I might lever the club up into the air a little bit more. So in here, I might just lift the club up into the air, hang on to that. You can see when I have this shot here, I'll get that a little bit thin. And when I'm in the sand, because I'm down in there and because that back part is up a little bit higher, the sand that is closer to the trail shoulder, if I hinge that a little bit, it'll actually help me move that a little, the first touch point with the club in the sand a little bit closer to the ball. And that will help me get possibly a little bit more spin or maybe even behave similarly to a level lie there. So I'll make, in effect, 2 accommodations that is away from what I would normally do in the bunker. I do get wider. I do get knee flex. That happens, but I drop that handle and I may lever the golf club. Not always, but may lever the golf club just a little bit more. Now, again, that's assuming that the downhill thing is what we were talking about.
It was.
It was. Okay, great.
Okay,
Great.
this one is from Scott. My rear knee is quote unquote buckling when I hit short pitch shots. Can you touch on leg stability with shots of less than 30 yards?
Okay, so hang on to this. Let me just ask one thing, because when we start doing golf swings, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the mat, or have you lower the mat. Do we have any questions that are in there about downhill lies?
This one is potentially
Okay.
from Joey. Michael, won't weight forward make me swing too steep?
Will weight forward make you swing too steep? That's a nice question. So typically what will happen is that if you have a lower lead shoulder, which is weight forward, the answer is, will it make you swing steeply? It can, doesn't always, but it can. But what we do want to do is we want to make sure that we make some body rotation to take a little of that steepness out. But here's what I would say. When I'm in a downhill lie, there are times where we want to get a little bit steeper. So I want to, like, I would rather, believe it or not, I would rather hit this ball thin than fat. That's across the sport. I would more prefer thin contact than fat contact. And so if I do get a little bit steep with this and I get a little bit of a thin strike, I'm okay with that, because I'm going to get relatively the same distance. So the answer is, yeah, you may, but you still, and this is where this is, hard for you to do. When you get tilted in here, there's still a body rotation. So when I get into this strike or into the setup position, I'm still rotating my body. When I go back here, I'm still going to get that, call it 90-degree turn in here like this. And then I'm going to move towards the target. And when I get that, again, 119 miles an hour ball speed there, that's a solid strike. Apex there at 84 feet. That's nearly my 90 feet. So there's a lot that I like about that. The body is still turning. You got to work a little bit harder. I'm with you, but the body is still turning. And if it doesn't quite turn as much and you get a little thin, better than fat. Okay. Anything else on downhill lies you've been able to look through?
Not specifically, but let me see if maybe this one's one you want to cover it with a downhill lie. If not, we can adjust it.
Yeah, then we can just adjust.
Can you also cover hitting out of a divot? This time of year, I constantly seem to have this issue.
Okay, yeah. So what I would do is then let's level out the floor here. This is going to be pretty cool. So one of the things that we have in the studio is the ability to take this floor and level it out. So we just got to go back in the oh yeah, you're going to show it. That's awesome. So right now you can see the back part of the mat is getting leveled out. There you go. That's perfect. We're now back to level lie. It's tremendous. Okay, great. So now I want to hit out of a divot. So there's a couple of things that you're thinking about when you get your ball into a divot. And there are many of you that are sitting there thinking to yourselves, I don't hit out of a divot. I just move it. You know what? I'm a fan of play it as you lie. I believe that that's an important part of the game. And honestly, it's going to make you better. So here's what I like to do. Down the line view, if we could, Gibbsy, what I like to do when I'm in a divot is I like to just stand closer to the ball. So that'll create a slightly steeper angle of attack, which is going to allow me to get the ball first. So when you get closer to the ball, you're going to grip down on that club. Now, because you're getting into a steeper angle of attack, what I then like to do is I then like to take the club face and open the club face a little bit because I want to get that trajectory back up into the air again. Well, that club face, when it gets open, means for the most part, again, depending upon the club, if I have a pitching wedge, maybe a little bit different than a 6-iron, I'm expecting to sort of get a little cut out of that because that face is going to be open. So I'll then adjust my stance to the pull side just a little bit. So I get in a little closer. I open up that club face. I'm going to aim a little left. Now, this is where things get similar to that downhill lie and what Greg was talking about. I will then I don't move the ball back in my stance necessarily, but I do shift a little weight distribution. So I kind of lean a little left. I don't tilt my shoulders. I just lean a little left. So I get into my position. I'm going to lean a little left from a narrower position. And now I'm going to go. And now what I'm going to get is I'm going to get a very solid strike. Come on, do it, do it, do it. Yes. So I'm going to get a very solid strike. But what I'm also going to get is I'm going to get a little bit of a twist to the right. Greg, if you could just put a trail on that so that everybody can see the start line and the shot shape of that. As I open up that club face, there's a great line. So it doesn't curve a lot. That only had 522 RPMs of right spin. Now, look, I know I wasn't in a divot, but what I did get was I did get a nice solid strike and a little bit of a piercing lower shot. Remember, I opened up the club face. You might have seen that, Gibbsy, pull that back up again. You might see that vertical launch. That vertical launch is right here. That vertical launch is 18.3. So that's, well, Michael, that's in your normal launch window. Yeah, but that's also with an open face. So my open face, I don't think it was a 7-iron, but it was nearly a 7-iron. That launch angle should have climbed up a little bit. And it's in my window between 17 and 19, roughly right in the middle, quick math, but that's with a club face that's a little bit more open. So as you stand in there a little bit tighter to the ball, you're going to get a little bit of a steeper angle of attack. That's going to make the ball go a little bit lower. To offset that, you got to add a little loft into that club face. And to offset that, by opening the face, you got to aim a little bit to the pull side. So you make a couple of adjustments, get that weight on that forward leg, and you'll have no problem with those golf balls that are sitting in a divot. Okay? Okay.
All right, let's get back to Scott's question. My rear knee is buckling when I hit short pitch shots. Can you touch on leg stability with shots of less than 30 yards?
Okay. So these shots are always interesting to discuss because what happens to a lot of people when they have these short shots is they feel like they've got to get the ball to get up into the air. So what you do is you make this small swing and then you start chucking this way. And when you chuck this way, the handle works back. It also works low. And as you start trying to get this up, you kind of dip down. So I would say, yeah, your back leg is buckling, but probably your upper body is stopping. That's why the back leg would buckle. So you come in here and you go like this and you go there, and that leg is now buckling, and you're starting to do that in an effort to get the ball up into the air. And so there are a couple of things that I would ask you to do. The first one is when you get set up to hit this 30-yard shot, establish your distance and your width of stance. Take your trail foot and put it on the toe, directly on the toe, not on the balls of the feet, but on the toe. So you're going to get here like this. It's on the toe like that. And then I want you to hit this shot. And when you hit this shot, and Gibbs, you don't need to follow the ball. When you hit this shot, I want to make sure you keep your balance. So you should be able to hit this 30 yards. That one there went 28.2 yards. But look at how my body is still now the way I was at address. If I start trying to help, I'm going to end up falling back, and I'm not going to be able to keep the footprint that I was in. So you get in here, put that up there, and then you hit that shot, 31.4. So fairly consistent in those two shots without a lot of thinking going on in the club, the length of the swing, none of that. Just focusing on this. That's one of the things that I would want you to do. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to understand how to carry the club with your chest. Really, really important part of this particular shot. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a towel. And we've actually, we did something. When did we release that, the towel drill, Greg? Do you remember? Maybe last week, but it's up on this site. If you kind of hang out on the site and you search there and you see me with a towel under there, wonderful drill for you and something that you should pay attention to. But when you're hitting this, in order for you to kind of tie your arms and the club to the body, put this towel underneath here, particularly when you're talking about a 30-yard shot. This is not something that I would do for a full swing, but it is something that I'll do a lot of when I'm hitting these 30-yard shots, because what I want to do is I want to feel like I'm hitting this with my chest. And the guy who I think is the best on the PGA Tour right now with this is Jason Day. Jason Day doesn't have a lot of wrist set. It's just in here like this, chest rotation, and in here like this, chest rotation. So if you want to watch a guy who does this beautifully, Jason Day would be the guy that I would look at. But what I want you to do is I want you to just get used to letting your body rotate. And when you start to do that, again, that one there is 31.8. But what you do when you do this, because you're rotating the body, the right shoulder, no, stay back on that other one, Gibbers. Yeah, the right shoulder is well inside this foot. If I am diving down to try to help this get up into the air, my right shoulder is outside this foot, which means the knee is going to buckle. But when I start to take the shoulder and I'm rotating, now all of a sudden it's inside the foot, I'm not going to buckle. And so as we start to take the body and rotate here, you might even see the trail heel come up in the air. Throw one in the down the line. Just let them see what a down the line is going to look like. Yeah, so in here like this, hit this shot there, and you can see that trail heel come up into the air there. A lot of body, a lot of chest in that shot, and not a lot of hands. So in here like this, body rotating through that shot just like that. And when you get to the finish, you can see how the golf club is out in front, almost like it's pulling my body, instead of me trying to help this up into the air and getting the alligator arms where I'm almost lifting right there. So throw that under there, do that for a little while. And then when you get into this shot, and one of the things that's really cool, you could take little tips from players on the PGA Tour. Justin Rose has this thing where right before he putts, he takes his shirt and he pulls it underneath and he wraps his arm on top of it and he feels like it's clamped that way. Well, you can do the exact same thing. Just go like this, clamp it underneath there. And now when you clamp, now all of a sudden you're thinking about that pressure of the tricep to the rib cage there. And now we just hear there. And as that body starts to rotate through, all of a sudden you're going to make really solid contact. You're going to find some power in that strike that you didn't have. And the other thing that's going to happen is the club is not going to leave an enormous divot behind. You're going to have this beautiful little brush on the grass because the body and the chest are carrying this club through. And you'll then start to see some consistent launch angles and some predictable distances that are going to come out of that. Okay. Use that towel drill. I know it's going to help you. All right, go ahead, Gregory.
That towel drill, if you just go into the playlist on Michael's page, there's a wedge playlist, and you'll find it in there. This one's from Peter. Good morning from New Zealand.
Awesome.
Yeah, Michael, what's your advice for hitting from a tee box with a driver when there's out of bounds left? I always hit out of bounds left. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. How cool is this that we get to share these moments? It's 1:45 on the East Coast. He's in New Zealand and he's tuning in to learn a little bit. I mean, this is, people ask me like, what's the biggest difference between golf instruction when you first got in and golf instruction now? I'm able to help Peter in New Zealand nowadays. 40 years ago, 35 years ago, I wasn't doing that. I couldn't do that. Now I can. And it's really cool. That's another reason why I love this YouTube stuff, because it allows me to get to people all over the place. And Peter, I will tell you, thank you for joining us. Tell your friends. Let's grow this community. Let's get everybody playing great golf. Okay. So now, Greg, I don't know whether you can do this or not, but will you take the sim over to our dog leg to the right tee shot? Now, one of the cool things that we've done here is in the design of this simulator with About Golf, what we've been able to do is create these certain shots. And one of these shots that we have is this one here. So I've got I don't know whether you can you do a helicopter ride on this? So here you go. Here's the helicopter ride. So this goes down the line just like this. And over on the left-hand side there by the bunker, you're going to see some hazard and some place where you don't want to go. And then it's going to make this twist over to the right-hand side, and that's where the hole is going to go. That one's going to take you right to that flag that's in the middle. So left is no good. Right is okay. That's exactly what Peter is talking about. So how do I get to a point where I have the confidence to know I'm not going to hit this to the left? There's two key things to be successful with this shot. The first one is that I always take the face of the club and I aim it where I want the ball to go, away from where I don't want it to go. So in this particular situation, I've got trouble on the left-hand side. I'm going to take the face and I'm going to point it to the right. So in the down the line view, I've got trouble over on this side. I want to get it over there, so I'm going to face over there. Now, the next key to this whole thing is you always swing to the trouble. This is the hardest part. You eliminate the trouble by swinging to the trouble. Because if I have the face over to the right and I swing over to the left, now I'm going to create some real spin that's going to go to the push side. So I get in here. Now, I'm not going to swing hard at this one. Face is going to be gripped open. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this club over to the trouble. I'm going to try to hit it at this tree that's right over there where my shadow is. You see that? That tree that's right over here. Let's see if that tree right there that my club head is in right there. That's where I'm trying to go. So I'm going to swing my club to that. The face is going to be over to the right bunkers. And now I'm going to go here. And I swing over there. And what I get is I get a golf ball that starts out to the left. Do we have a trace on this one, Greg? Do you know?
Yeah, we should.
So we got a trace on this one. So that one starts down the left-hand side and then twists over to the right. There you go. Now I swung to the tree, but the ball started at the target. It started in the middle of the fairway. And the reason why is because my club face is open. Now, what I'm going to do on this one is now I'm going to swing a bit harder. And what I would tell Peter and what I would tell all of you is you got to trust this at some point. You have to trust your motion. And so when you have that club face pointing away from where the bad stuff, and then you swing to the bad stuff, you know it's not going to go there because the deflection of the club face, you got to trust that. So all I have to do to make sure this doesn't go that way is make sure that the toe of the club stays behind the heel of the club. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to swing hard, but I'm going to make sure that the toe of the club stays behind the heel of the club. And I'm swinging over there to that tree. So here we go. Open up that club face. Swing over there to the left-hand side. And now all of a sudden what I get is I get a shot that goes right around the corner. And it'd be great to just keep it on this shot, Gibbsy, when this pops back up. It'll take about 4 or 5 seconds. But when this pops back up, there you go. What you can see is that golf ball, it didn't start to the out of bounds. I swung to the out of bounds, or in this situation, I swung to the hazard. Let's go to down the line, camera one. I swung to this hazard over here. I swung over here, but the ball starts in the middle there, and then it peels off to the right. Why? Because at address, I took that club face and I opened it up, and then I made sure that this part of the club was always behind this part of the club. So I go into what we call face control. Face control allows me to understand my shot shape, which allows me to have shot control. You want shot control, you have to have face control. It's as simple as that. Shot control right there in the face. Okay? Great question. Once again, Peter, thank you very much. Tell your friends, join us over here, okay? Join us. We love this. And we're doing this every single week. So make sure you join us. All right. Go ahead, Gregory.
Okay, this one from Van. What's your opinion on static club fitting? Basically, I find myself choking up on every club at address. And when I do that, I make better contact.
Well, I think what's going to happen is, and I wouldn't make the assumption that when you grip down, I don't like to use the word choking up. I don't like to use, like anybody say, oh yeah, he stood on 18, he had a chance to shoot his lowest, and he choked up and he shot 91. He could have broken 80. He made a 21 on the last hole and things got really ugly. Whatever. I don't like to say choke up. I like to say grip down. So we're going to grip down on that. What happens when you grip down? What happens when you shorten the length of the club? It gives you a better chance to hit it in the center of the club face. Now, that does not mean that your clubs are too long for you. For the most part, anybody that grips down on the club is going to make better contact because you're just closer to the golf ball. Okay. So I wouldn't necessarily say that your clubs are not fit for you. I would say maybe you just have a little bit more confidence with that club being a little bit shorter. Now, could you shorten your clubs? Yeah, you could shorten your clubs. No question about it. And you could go and get fit for those. But what I would do is I would see, like, what's the length, what's the in between that can work for you. In other words, maybe you don't want it as long as you have it, and maybe you don't want it as short as you get it when you grip down. But maybe there's an in between where you get pretty consistent center face contact, pretty predictable distance, but also it's a little bit longer than when you grip down that way. And that's where I would go for a fit if I was inclined to do that. And the other thing I will remind you of is a guy named Anthony Kim, who played with the club just like this, right? He would grip down all the way there and have a lot of the handle sticking out from the top of his hand. But it didn't steal his distance at all. And so if that's the case and you hit it solidly and you play predictably, like my 7-iron will go 160 yards, and it does that all the time because I hit it in the center, then I wouldn't mess with it at all. I would just play right there like that. We used to see that happen quite a bit. And the other sport that used to do that a lot was baseball. Felix Millan, many of you don't even know who that is, but gripped down on that bat all the time when he was playing, and worked out pretty well. He played in the major leagues. Go ahead, Gregory.
Justin Suh, by the way, grips down on just about every shot too, by the way. All right, this one is from, I'll say Ja here, and he's an avid fan of the live show, so thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Do you profess the stack and tilt method, which suggests you keep your weight on your lead foot, whereas, or rather than shifting pressure back and forth? Or what are your comments on that kind of concept on a level lie?
Okay, so in a level lie situation, and I remember having this conversation with Johnny Miller. It's a fascinating thing. And then believe it or not, and I mean, honestly, believe it or not, earlier this week, Greg and I were going through Jack Nicklaus's instructional books, of which I've got a few of those. And he talks about pivot points. Posts was what Johnny Miller talked about. And what Miller talked about was with wedges, he would want, and I'm saying wedges, 9-iron, he would want a single post on his left side. With other irons, say 8-iron, 7-iron, 6-iron, he would want a single post in the middle of his body. And then with longer clubs, driver, whatever, he would want a dual post. So in the backswing, he would post up around this, rotate around this post over here. Then he would shift the weight into this post forward and then rotate around that post. Now, what's my feeling of that? I don't like the idea of sitting on my lead side for all my shots and playing from there. And the reason why is that you do steepen angle of attack, which does create side spin. It does end up creating a lot of curve, particularly if you have a high club head speed and you create a lot of side spin. But what it does more than anything else for those that don't have a lot of club head speed is you tend to hit low shots. So if I were to do that, and I'm not knocking the method, I'm just saying it's not for me. It's not what I believe. It's not what I teach. But if I get in here like this, and I then single post around this lead leg. So I'm going to single post around this, and I'm going to hit here, and I'm going to hit that shot right there, which is what tends to happen for me. I tend not to be able to follow through with that single post. But what I end up getting is very low launches. That one there launched at about 12. I get very low apexes. Let's come up to the front so people can see this. Now, just so you have an understanding of this, that ball speed there was about 113 miles an hour. If I normally play at 115, I'm going to get a golf shot that's going to carry in the air about 173, 174. That one there only 2 miles an hour lower or slower than that, and that golf ball flew 161. Well, now when I get a 161, now what I get is I get a ball that doesn't carry very far. But also what I get with that ball speed, that distance, carry distance, and this 49-foot apex with a 12-degree launch is I get a lot of rollout. That one rolled out just about 12 yards. And that's 12 yards with a 6-iron. And so all of a sudden, I'm not carrying it very far, and I'm shrinking greens. So if I am trying to hit that golf ball to a 165 flag, I have to carry, I do that same swing. It carries 161, so it carries 4 shy of that, but then it rolls out well past it. 7 past, 8 past, and now all of a sudden my green speeds increase because typically I'm putting down a hill. Not a lot, a slight pitch. And all of a sudden, when I get that going on, now all of a sudden my putts get really, really challenging. And what I like to do also is understand that I probably lost ball speed because I lost clubhead speed. That clubhead speed went to 73. So I launch it lower. I don't have the descent angle that I'm looking for. That descent angle there was 30 degrees at the very bottom on the left-hand side, 30 degrees. So now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go to the middle post, and I'm going to pivot on the middle post right there. You're going to see ball speed go up. I'm going to try to swing this at about 115. I don't know that I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm going to try to get a ball speed of about 115 here. So I missed it by just a little bit. So, but look at things change here now. So I swung it. I tried to swing it to get 115 miles an hour ball speed there. I got 116.3, so pretty good. But look at how in that move, look at how much clubhead speed I gained. I gained about 7 miles an hour of clubhead speed. I got 7 miles an hour more clubhead speed, but I only got 3 miles an hour more ball speed. So what happened there? Well, what happens is that when you have that steep angle of attack, what you have is a lot less loft on the face, and all of a sudden the ball speed is going to pick up relative to the clubhead speed. But what also is going to happen is spin rates are going to change, launch angles are going to change, descent angles are going to change, overall carry distance is going to change. Look at all this. So this apex is 94 feet. The other one was 49 feet, something like that. The launch angle on this was 19. The other one was like 11. The carry distance on this is 175. That's my predictability. That's why I said at 115, I'm going to get about 175. And I got 116 and I got about 175, just a little bit north of that. Look at the rollout on this, only 3 yards. And then look at the descent angle. The descent angle on the first one was 30 degrees. The descent angle on this is 45 degrees. So this one is coming down like this instead of going like this. Now, is that exactly what I'm trying to do? That's exactly what I'm trying to do. But watch what happens when I do this other one with the driver. And this is the one where things get really, really different, okay? I don't know that I'm going to be able to get exactly what I want out of this. So that's in the green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hang on that lead leg. I'm going to try to make sure that I make the contact that I am intending. Ah, didn't get it. Let's try it again. I was not sure if I had it in the green there. All right, let's see if I can get it here. So same thing. And you can see I'm kind of leaning into that lead leg to try to create that single post over that lead leg there. So right here. Yeah, it's just not, it doesn't want to pick it up. I don't want to pick it up, and it doesn't want to pick it up. So let's give it one more chance. I'm a baseball guy. I tell you that all the time. So here we go. Make sure that's in the green. So we're in the green, and now here we go. Lean in there. Okay, so here we go. So this one got it. Now, watch what happens with this, and then I'm going to try to hit one the way I would normally hit it. So now look at what happens here. So clubhead speed at about 101. Ball speed at about 147. Launch angle at 11.2. I normally am like a 14, 15 guy. Carried 233. Apex was 67 feet, so very, very flat. Descent angle there, 30.3 rather. So pretty straight shot. That had a little left spin on it, so pretty straight shot. 147 on 101. Now, let's see what I can get here when I do. This is the double post. So I'm going to post up on my trail, and I'm going to post up on the lead. And let's see if I can get something similar in the clubhead speed. Again, 101 is where I'm trying to get to. Okay? So let's see what we can get. I hit it out on the toe. So that is not going to be an accurate representation of what we're looking for. It'll give you a fairly good idea of the things. This is not exactly what I get. I'm going to hit another one, but I just want to show you what kind of happens there. So I had that thing at 102, so about the same, but it was a mishit, bad mishit. Ball speed went to 143. Remember, the other one was 147. The other one only carried what it was 230. This one carries 244 and rolls out to nearly 260. The launch angle was 20. It was a mishit, complete mishit. This was terrible. And I got better results with that one. Okay, now let's see if I can make a decent swing here. See if I can make a decent swing with a little bit better launch angle, and because 20 is very, very high for me. Okay, so here we go. And I covered that one and shut the face. Oh boy. See, I get messed. So what happens is when you start altering the swing motion, you start getting some inconsistencies here. Now remember, this is the baseball guy, and I still didn't mind the one prior to that, the 142. I didn't mind that. This one I shut the face a little bit. So even though I got 101 miles an hour, you can pull that up. I got 101 miles an hour of club head speed. So that was pretty good. But the ball speed there was 153 because the face was so shut. You can see that shut action in the side spin, which says 745 over there, 740. Yeah, 745 on 1746. Let's try this one more time. See if I can do this a little bit. Do my family proud now, because this is going to be a family issue. Okay, so that's pretty good there. This is really fun. So come on up here, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to get 101 miles an hour of club head speed, which for me is now throttling down. There was a time when that was throttling up. It was throttling down. So I throttled down, and I throttled to about 99. So I'm 2 miles an hour less in the club head speed. But because there's an efficiency with what I'm doing, with the club moving along the ground instead of moving into the ground, my ball speed jumps up to 150. So I had, these are the things that you understand when you're in here as much as I'm in here, how angle of attack, club head speed, impact points on the face, how that can all affect ball speed, which is why ball speed to me is such an important part of the equation. But when it's all said and done, slower club head speed, faster ball speed. Now we look at all the things that took place. My vertical launch is 14.7, so call it 15. That's right in my window. That golf ball carried 250 yards in the air. Now, it's a little higher than I want, right? Not exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to the spin and the apex. So my spin rate was about 3,000. It's a little bit more than I want to play at. My face is a little bit open on that one there, right? That's why the apex is 123. And that's why the descent angle is 44 degrees. Not exactly what I want. But it went high in the air. It launched a little bit higher because the club is now moving more along the ground instead of into the ground. And so I become way more efficient. Less club head speed, more ball speed, greater distance on a mishit. And that's one of the things that's important to understand. So that apex that was, I think it was in the 60s. I can't remember exactly what it was, like 60 something. Now all of a sudden it's 123. Now that's a pretty high shot, a little bit of an open face pop up there, but still a very good outcome. I'm not a fan of a stack and tilt model. It's very good with clubs of loft. It's not my preference when it comes to the driver. And I also don't like to have the idea that I'm going to have multiple swings for multiple clubs. It's hard enough for you to master one swing, let alone 13. All right, go ahead, Gregory.
That may be the perfect segue to this question from Steve. Hi, Michael. I've been working on your shoelace drill to help me with shot shaping.
Awesome.
And it helps a ton. My question is, if I was a student of yours, would you encourage me to master one shape or both? And there's a follow-up comment as well in reference to my question above. When I practice the fade, I'm consistently fading the ball. When I practice the draw, I struggle.
Okay. So I think, look, we're all in the middle of this conversation of this rollback, right? Roll back the ball. We're in the middle of the conversation. Those of you that listen to my show on Sirius XM on New Breed of Golf, you know how I feel about this. I don't think this is a great idea. There've been a lot of changes that have taken place in the game of golf over time, and many years ago, and I'll say 40 or 50 years ago, the idea was you got to have the nine shot shapes. You got to be able to start it low, middle, high, and you got to be able to move it. So you got to be able to curve it to the right, curve it to the left, hit it straight. And so you got these 9 different shot shapes. And that was what we all tried to do. And I think it's one of the reasons why players nowadays are better than players of yesteryear as a collective group. And I know many of you say, well, it has to do with the equipment. Yeah, okay. It has something to do with that. No question about it. But I would say it's easier to fade the golf club in the yesteryear than it is now because of perimeter weighting and things like that. What I would say is this: get really good at shaping the shot one way or the other. Do you have to know how to do it? I think it's probably an advantage to know how to be able to curve the ball to the right or to the left. But what I can tell you is that I've gotten better in my game because I exclusively move the ball left to right. And I get predictable shot shapes with my driver. I get predictable shot shapes with my irons. It doesn't mean that I don't hit bad shots. You've obviously seen that I do, but I get very good outcomes on less than shots that are not what I am looking for. That last shot that I hit, that is not what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to hit it at 123 feet, but I am trying to move it left to right. So that one did move left to right. The face was open. I got a very, very good shot. Wasn't my best, but it's out there 106 or 262 yards. You know what? Not disappointed with that. I'd love it if it got to 280. If it gets to 270, 275, I'm thrilled with that. So I've got another club I have to hit. So instead of hitting a pitching wedge in or a 9-iron in, I'm going to hit a 9-iron or an 8-iron in. I'm okay with that. I just don't want to be in the woods. And what I find is that particularly at the amateur level, at the recreational level, you don't have a lot of time to practice all this stuff. So what I would suggest is, just get the ball going one direction, trust it, and get used to it. Okay. And I think that's going to help you play better golf. Just know how to curve it the other way, but play one way. All right. We got time for one more question here, Gregory.
Okay. We'll go to this one from Eli, and this is the second time this topic came up. So I've been playing for 3 years. I'm 38. I'm driving at 200 yards with an interlock grip, but when I change to a 10-finger grip, I drive at 240. The release just seems easier. Can this negatively impact me down the road? And someone else earlier asked, what are the drawbacks of a 10-finger grip?
So, Gibbsy, let's take a 7 and just get it a little bit closer to my hands here. Just pull it up there you go, right there. Okay, now, so what I worry about with a 10-finger grip is not this part of the grip. I don't worry about this part of the grip, my fingers and how it enters the hand. I don't worry about that. What I worry about is this part of the grip. So my thumbs. If I have a 10-finger grip like a baseball bat and I take my thumb and I wrap it around, I lose I can lose the golf club at the top of the swing. It can kind of bounce back in here. So I like to have, if you want to go 10-finger and have the thumb down, that's fine. And by the way, for the most part, in a 10-finger grip, you're not really affecting the lead hand, the top hand. You're not really affecting it. Yeah, you might interlock like that. Okay, good. Or if you overlap, it doesn't really have an effect. It really affects the trail hand. And specifically, back to the thumbs. I like when I'm doing this, I like to feel like there's a little pinching going on right there. I like to see a line there. I don't want to see a gap right there. I like to see zoom right in on that. So let me just, there you go. Get in there and then hit that. Yeah, perfect. So I don't want to see this because when I have that, I have this gap. And now this club at the top of the swing, it can drop down. See how there's a gap right here now? So if I start out like this and then it ends up going like that, that's when I get a little bit of a gap issue. And that's when I get some bouncing around. So I like to see a 10-finger, but I want to see that V, if you will, or that line, if you will, where there's a little touch there. I like seeing that. So 10-finger grip, if you're getting 40 yards extra out of that, Terrific. Keep doing it. I'm a big fan of it. You know, by the way, who played with a 10-finger grip? His father, well, the father of Butch Harmon, a gentleman named Claude Harmon, won a Masters, head pro at Wingfoot. He was a 10-finger grip guy. And what I can tell you is I can go through time. There's a lot of people that played 10-finger. Of course, then Harry Vardon came along and he had the Vardon grip, which actually wasn't his grip. He got from another guy, but he was so talented and so famous that everybody called it, well, that's the grip that Vardon uses. So they called it the Vardon grip, but he wasn't the guy who started doing this. But before there was the Vardon grip, there was the 10-finger grip, and everybody gripped it in 10 fingers. So it's not a bad grip. This is actually, to me, this is the oldest grip that there was, the 10-finger grip. People would grab this thing like this. And if you go back to old pictures, you'll see this a lot, particularly if you see pictures. I never saw the grip of guys that were playing golf back in, 1700. So I can't speak to that, but I have seen some grips of players that were sort of 1800s, early 1900s, and the 10-finger grip was the way people held it. So I'm all for that. Just make sure that you're careful with that brace at the top of the swing with how your thumb sits in there, because that thumb is a very important part of supporting the club as the club gets to the top of the backswing, and also as you start to change direction, you start putting some force on that part of the grip with the fingers. And if you don't have those thumbs in the right spot, you can lose control over that. Okay. All right. Now, let me say thank you all so much for joining us. We are having such a great time. I love it. I know Greg and Gibbsy are enjoying it. And Al Consoli, by the way, who sits in with us and watches this stuff. We're all trying to do everything we can to make you a better player. And so we appreciate you joining us. We hope that you continue to tell your friends. We hope that you continue to try to grow this platform. So one day, in my mind, one day I'm imagining that we're going to have 10,000 people that are going to be watching this show from all over the world. We already heard from Pete in New Zealand, which was tremendous. We want to try to grow all this stuff with everybody all over the world. So we ask you to tell your friends, let them know that we're going to be doing this all year long, 12 noon Eastern, right here on Thursdays on A New Breed of Golf Live. I want to say, again, a special thank you to my friends, Steve Gibbs, and of course, Greg Ducharme. There they are right there. I wonder if we're going to get a throwback. Oh, we go knuckles now. So we're changing things up. I tell you, these guys, they're throwing fastballs and curveballs. I can never know what's going. They're shaking me off. Anyway, appreciate all the hard work of those guys. Quick reminder, too, if you want those blessed poker chip ball markers, those are in there, $6. Send those emails to me at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. And, of course, we've got the hats that are available. Again, send that email to me at anewbreedofgolf@michaelbreed.com. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Remember, you can join us tomorrow on A New Breed of Golf on Sirius XM. We've got a very special guest coming on tomorrow, David Marr, who's the most, well, he holds the highest position at Titleist. He's going to join us as we talk about this golf ball debate and the rollback situation that's been proposed with the USGA and the R&A. So excited to have him on. He'll be on it tomorrow at 8:15 in the morning. We start up at 8 o'clock Eastern. So all my best to everybody. Enjoy the Valspar, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.